Ngozi was a kind-hearted and hardworking girl, though she was shy and often kept to herself. She lived with her parents and helped out with chores, but she also had a soft spot for helping others in the village. Not far from Ngozi's house lived an old woman named Mama Ifoma. Mama Ifoma's children were all grown and married, except for her last born, Emma, who was a young man. Emma worked in the nearby town and only come home occasionally. The old woman often struggled to fetch water, gather firewood, and cook her meals. Many villagers were too busy to assist her, but Ngozi, seeing her struggle, decided to help. Every morning, Ngozi would stop by Mami Farmer's house after finishing her chores at home. She would fetch water from the stream, carry bundles of firewood from the forest, and even sweep the compound. Mami Farmer was grateful and would always say, "Ngozi, you are like the daughter I never had. May you be blessed in all you do." Ngozi smiled shyly whenever the old woman thanked her. "It's nothing, Mama. You remind me of my grandmother," she would say. One day, the man returned from the town to visit his mother. He was tall and confident with a charming smile that many girls in the village admired. When he saw Ngozi walking in the compound, he was curious about her. "Who is this girl, Mama?" he asked. "She's Ngozi, a kind girl who helped me with chores," Mami Foma replied. "If not for her, I don't know how I would manage." Emma began to pay attention to Ngozi. Whenever she came to help his mother, he would strike up conversation with her, asking about her family, her life, and her dreams. Ngozi, though timid, found herself enjoying their talks. Over time, Emma became even more friendly, offering to walk her home or carry heavy bundles of firewood for her. As weeks went by, their friendship grew, but Emma began to see Ngozi in a different way. One evening, Emma confessed his feeling for her. Ngozi, unsure of what to say, simply nodded. She didn't know much about love, but she trusted Emma because he seemed kind and caring. However, their closeness led to something unexpected. A few months later, Ngozi realized she was pregnant. Fear gripped her heart. How would she tell her parents? Gathering all her courage, Ngozi told Emma about the pregnancy. To her shock, Emma denied being responsible. "Ngozi, don't say things like that," he said sternly. "How can you prove it's mine? You're just trying to trap me." Ngozi's timid nature made it difficult for her to defend herself. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she watched Emma walk away, leaving her feeling lost and abandoned. Mami Farmer noticed that Ngozi had stopped coming to her house. She wondered what had happened and decided to find out. Meanwhile, Ngozi's growing belly was becoming harder to find. When Ngozi's mother discovered her pregnancy, the news shook their small household. Her mother, Mama Ngozi, was the first to notice the changes in her daughter. She saw how Ngozi avoided eye contact and how her clothes no longer fit the same way. One evening, as they sat outside peeling cassava, Mama Ngozi asked directly, "Ngozi, is there something you are hiding from us?" Ngozi froze, her heart pounding. She couldn't speak, and her silence confirmed her mother's suspicion. Mama Ngozi dropped the cassava and stared at her daughter. "Ngozi, answer me. Are you with child?" Ngozi nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. Her father, Papa Ngozi, who had just walked in from the farm, overheard and demanded, "What is this I'm hearing? Pregnant? By who?" Through her sobs, Ngozi whispered, "Emma." Papa Ngozi's face darkened with anger. "Emma? Mami Farmer's son? That boy who comes and goes as he pleases?" Mama Ngozi sighed deeply, her hands trembling. "Ngozi, why didn't you tell us sooner? Why didn't you come to us for help?" "I was scared," Ngozi said softly. "He denied it when I told him. He said it wasn't his." Papa Ngozi stood up abruptly, his voice booming. "He denied it? Did he? Then we shall see about it. Tomorrow, we are going to Mami's farmer's house." That night, Ngozi barely slept. She knew the next day would be difficult. She was afraid of the confrontation and what the villagers might say. The following morning, Papa Ngozi and Mama Ngozi took their daughter to Mami Farmer's compound. Mami Farmer was surprised to see them so early. "Welcome," she greeted warmly. "What brings you here so early?" Papa Ngozi wasted no time. "We have come because of your son, Emma. He has brought shame to my family. He has made my daughter pregnant and now refused to take responsibility." Mami Farmer's face dropped in shock. "Emma? Pregnant? Ngozi?" She looked at Ngozi, who stood quietly, her head bowed. "Is this true, Ngozi?" "Yes, Mama," Ngozi replied timidly. Mami Farmer called for Emma, who was inside the house. When he came out and saw Ngozi and her parents, he frowned. He denied not having anything to do with Ngozi. Mami Farmer, now caught between protecting her son and doing what was right, said, "Let us not rush to conclusion. We will call the elders and settle this matter properly. If my son is responsible, he will take full responsibility." The stage was set for a village meeting where the truth to be revealed and justice decided. After the village elders meeting, the decision took a drastic turn. The elders, unable to get a clear confession from Emma, advised Ngozi's parents to take their daughter to his house and his wife. It was a common custom in the village for such matters to be resolved this way. Mama Ngozi packed a few of Ngozi's belongings and led out to Mami's Farmer's house the next morning. "Emma must take responsibility," she said firmly. Papa Ngozi walked behind them, his face set like stone. When they arrived, Emma was sitting outside, carving a piece of wood. He stood up. Emma grabbed Ngozi's bundle and threw it back toward her parents. "Take your things and go. I won't let you ruin my life with your lies." Ngozi felt a deep shame wash over her as the neighbors began to gather, whispering and pointing. Papa Ngozi, humiliated and furious, shouted, "Emma, you cannot run from this forever. The truth will catch up with you." But Emma turned his back and walked inside the house, slamming the door. Mami Farmer stood there, torn between defending her son and feeling pity for Ngozi. Ngozi's parents reluctantly took her back home, their hearts heavy with disappointment and shame. That night, Mama Ngozi hugged her daughter tightly and whispered, "Don't worry, my child. The truth will come out one day. You are not alone." But deep in her heart, Ngozi wondered if the village would ever see her as anything but a girl carrying a burden she hasn't chosen. Months passed, and the time for Ngozi to give birth finally came. The labor was long and painful, but when the cries of a newborn filled the small hut, everyone was relieved. Ngozi's baby boy was a healthy child, and to everyone's amazement, he bore an uncanny resemblance to Emma. The baby had a man's sharp nose, his bright piercing eyes, and even the same dimple on his left cheek. Word spread quickly through the village, and soon everyone was whispering about how Emma could no longer deny the truth. Mama Ngozi, though still hurt by all that had happened, was proud of her grandson. She named him Obinna, meaning father's heart, hoping it would soften Emma's stubbornness. 2 weeks after the birth, Papa Ngozi decided it was time to confront Emma again. He carried Obinna in his arm and marched to Mami Farmer's house. The baby's resemblance to Emma was undeniable, and Papa Ngozi hoped this would make Emma finally take responsibility. When Emma saw Ngozi's father walking up with the child, he froze. He could not deny the similarities. Mama Farmer, who had been quietly observing the situation for months, gasped when he saw the child. "Emma, look at this boy. He is you in every way." But Emma hardened his heart. "It doesn't prove anything," he said coldly. "Anyone can look like me." Mami Farmer slapped her thigh in frustration. "Emma, stop this madness. This child is yours. Even the spirit of our ancestors are watching you." "I said he's not my child," Emma shouted. "I won't accept him or Ngozi. They can stay away from me." Emma turned away, refusing to look at the baby. "Take him away," he muttered. Papa Ngozi then returned home with Obinna. Ngozi sat silently, cuddling her son. Her heart ached, but as she looked into Obinna's innocent face, she knew she couldn't let Emma's rejection define their lives. I will raise my son on my own, Ngozi said quietly but firmly. He doesn't need a father who doesn't want him. Ngozi's mother put a comforting hand on her daughter's shoulder. You are stronger than you think, my child, and you have us. We'll help you raise him. But deep in Ngozi's heart, a seed of anger and determination began to grow. She vowed to give Obinna a good life and show the village that she was more than the timid girl they thought she was. Meanwhile, whispers in the village grew louder. Some supported Ngozi and condemned Emma, while others doubted her story. The elders began discussing how to resolve the matter once and for all, as the shame of Emma's action brought dishonor to his family. Emma thought he had escaped responsibility, but the growing resemblance between him and Obinna began to haunt him. Even children in the village joked about how Emma's twin was growing up in Ngozi's house. The pressure from the village elders and his own family was mounting. Years passed and life in the village carried on. Ngozi, now a young woman, worked hard to provide for Obinna. The boy grew into a lively, intelligent child who became the pride of his mother and grandparents. He excelled in his chores and studies. As he grew older, his striking resemblance to Emma became even more pronounced. Emma, meanwhile, had married a beautiful woman named Amaka. Their wedding was the talk of the village, with everyone praising Emma's luck in finding such a fine wife. But as the years went by, their joy turned into sorrow. Despite their prayers, sacrifices, and visits to healers, Amaka could not conceive a child. Each time Emma saw children playing in the village, he was reminded of Obinna, the boy he had denied, now ran errand confidently, his laughter echoing through the streets. People whispered, saying Obinna looked like a younger version of Emma, and the truth became an unspoken reality that weighed heavily on Emma's heart. One evening, as Emma sat outside his home, his mother, Mami Fuma, approached him. She had grown weary of his stubbornness. Emma, she said, her voice heavy with disappointment, you had a son, a strong, handsome boy, and you let your pride blind you. Now the gods have closed your wife's womb, and you sit here regretting. Emma clenched his fist, unable to respond. He knew his mother was right. Deep inside, he regretted every moment he had turned his back on Ngozi and Obinna. One day, Emma decided to visit Ngozi's home. As he approached, he saw Obinna helping his grandfather in the compound, his strong arms carrying a bundle of firewood. The boy's resemblance to Emma was undeniable, and Emma's heart ached. But when Obinna looked at him, there was no recognition, no warmth. To Obinna, Emma was just another man in the village, a stranger who had no place in his life. Emma turned to leave, tears stinging his eyes. He realized he had waited too long to make things right. Obinna had grown up without him, and Ngozi had built a life where Emma was no longer needed. Years rolled by, and Ngozi's determination to build a better life for herself and her son bore fruits. Despite the challenges, she managed to further her education through scholarships and the unwavering support of her parents. Ngozi excelled in her studies, eventually earning a degree in education. She later returned to the village as a teacher, a role that quickly earned her respect and admiration. Ngozi's beauty, once overshadowed by her youth and struggles, now shone like the morning sun. Her confidence and intelligence only added to her charm, making her the pride of the village. Many suitors came from far and wide, hoping to win her hand, but Ngozi focused on raising Obinna and building her career. Emma, whose life had taken a different path, often watched Ngozi from a distance. His once dismissive thoughts about her had turned into regret. He had assumed she would remain a simple village girl, struggling under the weight of her circumstances. But now, the sight of her, poised, successful, and glowing with self-assurance, reminded him of his grave mistake. One day, as Emma sat outside his home, his wife Amaka approached him. She had noticed how distant he had become. Emma, she said softly, what is it that troubles you so deeply? Is it the child we never had? Emma sighed. burying his face in his hands. "It's more than that, Amaka," he admitted. Each time Emma saw Ngozi in the village, her head held high, her beauty and success radiating, his hand sank further. He longed to approach her, to apologize, to ask for forgiveness, but deep inside, he knew it was too late. Emma's wife, Amaka, grew increasingly concerned about her husband's sorrowful demeanor. One evening, as they sat together under the moonlight, she took his hand and spoke firmly. "Emma," she said, "you cannot carry this guilt forever. If you truly regret what you did, then make it right. Go to Ngozi's family, apologize, ask them to let you claim Obinna as your son." Emma looked at her, conflicted. "Do you think they will ever forgive me? I rejected them when they needed me the most. What makes you think they will listen to me now?" "You won't know until you try," Amaka replied. "Take me with you. We will go together. It is better to face their anger than to live with regret forever." Reluctantly, Emma agreed. The next day, Emma and Amaka dressed in their finest clothes and walked to Ngozi's family's compound. As they approached, the sound of laughter echoed through the air. Ngozi's father, Pa Okonkwo, was sitting under a mango tree, sharing stories with his grandchildren. Obinna was among them, his bright laughter ringing out as he played with his cousins. Emma's heart tightened at the sight of the boy, his son, now a young man, so full of life. "Good afternoon, Okonkwo," Emma said nervously, bowing slightly. Pa Okonkwo squinted at Emma, his expression hardening. "What are you doing here, Emma?" he asked, his voice sharp. Emma hesitated, then dropped to his knees. "Papa, I have come to beg for forgiveness," he said, his voice trembling. "I made a terrible mistake in the past. I denied my son, and I hurt your family. But I'm here now to make things right. Please, let me be part of Obinna's life." Okonkwo stood abruptly, his face red with anger. "You have the audacity to come here after all these years?" he thundered. "When my daughter cried for you, where were you? When Obinna needed a father, where were you? And now you think you can waltz in here and claim him as a son?" Emma tried to explain, but Okonkwo was already walking toward the shed where he kept his farming tools. He returned moments later, brandishing a sharp cutlass. "Get out of my compound before I lose my temper," Okonkwo roared, pointing the blade at Emma. "You rejected them and now they don't need you. Go back to where you came from." Emma and Amaka scrambled to their feet, backing away quickly. The neighbors, drawn by the commotion, gathered to watch, whispering among themselves. "Let this be a warning," Okonkwo shouted. "Ngozi and Obinna have moved on without you, and they will continue to do so. You are not welcome here." As Emma and Amaka walked back to their home, Emma's shoulders slumped with defeat. He had hoped for a chance to make amends, but now he realized just how deeply his action had hurt Ngozi's family. Amaka placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You tried, Emma," she said gently, "but some wounds take time to heal, if they heal at all." Emma nodded, his eyes fixed on the ground. He knew he had no one to blame but himself. The son he had denied, the woman he had dismissed, he had lost them both. As time passed, Ngozi's hard work, intelligence, and beauty caught the attention of a man named Chijioke, a successful and kind-hearted trader from a neighboring village. Chijioke was deeply moved by Ngozi's story and admired her resilience as a single mother. He saw the love she had for her son, Obinna, and admired her strength in building a good life despite the challenges. When Chijioke proposed marriage, Ngozi hesitated at first. She wanted to ensure that whoever came into her life would love Obinna as much as she did. But Chijioke reassured her, saying, "Ngozi, I see Obinna as a blessing, not a burden. If you allow me, I will love and raise him as my own son." Their wedding was a joyful celebration, with villagers praising Ngozi for finding a good man who valued her and her son. Chijioke kept his promise, legally adopting Obinna and raising him with care and pride. Together, Ngozi and Chijioke had more children, and their home was filled with love, laughter, and harmony. Meanwhile, Emma, plagued by regrets, made one last attempt to claim Obinna as his son. He approached the village elders, begging them to mediate on his behalf. "Elders," Emma said, bowing his head in shame, "I know I have made mistakes, but I'm here to correct them. I want to be part of my son's life. Please help me to speak to Pokonkwo and Ngozi." The elders shook their heads solemnly. The oldest among them, Elder Eze, spoke firmly. "Emma, when we warned you about the consequences of your actions, you ignored us. Now that Ngozi has built a life without you, you want to disrupt it? You abandoned her when she needed you the most. This is the result of your own choices. Obinna is no longer yours to claim." Emma left the meeting in despair, realizing that the village elders and Pokonkwo had no sympathy for him. As the years went by, Emma's life unraveled further. His wife Amaka grew tired of their childless marriage and the shadow of regret that loomed over Emma. She eventually left him, marrying another man who gave her the family she longed for. Before leaving, she cursed Emma, saying, "You rejected your only child, and now the gods have turned their back on you. You will reap what you have sown." Emma lived the rest of his days in loneliness and regret. Every time he saw Obinna, now a fine young man, under Chijioke's guidance, his heart ached. He often sat outside his house, watching the happy family from afar, haunted by what could have been. In contrast, Ngozi's life flourished. Chijioke loved her deeply and treated Obinna like his firstborn. The boy grew up with siblings who adored him and a father who supported him in every way. Obinna went on to achieve great things, making his family proud. Though Ngozi sometimes saw Emma from our distance, she had moved past the pain he caused her. She was grateful for the life she had built and the family she had found in Chijioke. In the end, while Emma faced the consequences of his choices, Ngozi lived a life filled with love, happiness, and fulfillment. Her story became a reminder to the village of the importance of kindness, accountability, and valuing the people in your life.